Is it recording? It is recording. Okay. Good morning, good people. How are you? Hope you're fine. Um, so this is something I've never done before. I don't even know if it's gonna upload. I don't even know if I'm recording it right. I hope I am. But anyways, so I recently, well, not recently, but I recently, not like yesterday, recently, like a month ago, recently, I I have a friend who um recorded who made a YouTube video, Jennifer Panetta. I hope I'm saying her name right, girl. I'm sorry if I didn't. I seen her post a YouTube video of her journey and of her story of being a young teenage mom and just her difficulties of dealing with being a teenage mom in high school, and her mom was, disappointed in her and upset with her, and just her having to deal with not having the support of her mom, and how it was very important for her, how, how she felt like she let down her family and getting pregnant at 16. Although I was not 16 when I got pregnant, I was young, and I did feel alone. And so I just want to tell my story of, how I got through it and, what I went through. So basically, I want to start off by saying my name is Evelyn Renee Shaw. Um, I was born in September. What else? So my mom died when I was a very young girl. I was like, I don't know my age, maybe 7 or 8. I don't know. I was very, very young, and my mom passed when I was still just a baby. But my aunt and her husband, Uncle Dee, they raised me and my two sisters, and I'm so grateful to God that, when my mom died, we didn't have the struggles of, going through foster care. We didn't have the struggles or, of going through a lot of different things that children go through when their parents die at a young age. So I'm very grateful to God and thankful that me and my sisters, we don't have that story to tell. So, anyways, so we grew up in a pretty good household. We didn't we didn't have struggles. As far if we did have struggles, we as children didn't see them. And from what I can say, we lived a pretty good, healthy life. We had, even though they were not our biological parents, they were our parents. We lived in a two-parent home. Um, Some people say that my auntie spoiled us. Well, she may have, but at the end of the day, we knew that she loved us, she cared for us, and she did the best she could with what she had. Um, so, anyway, fast forward to my adult life. When I was 18, I moved out of our home. Just because my uncle was a little bit strict, and you know, I was I thought I was ready to be an adult. So I moved out, and my very first apartment, I lived with this girl uh named Amanda. I'm sorry if you didn't want me to say your name. I lived with her. I think I was 18 and she was like 21 or 22. She already had a son who was 4, and we pretty much lived together, and it was good. We didn't have a rough time until a guy came in the picture, and then that's when it got rough. But for the most part, Amanda was a very nice girl, very loving, and we ate hamburger helper and hot chips every day. So fast forward a little more to my even more adult life. I ended up leaving Spring and I went to live on the Northeast with my grandfather off of Pickfair, and I pretty much lived with my papa off and on for for quite some time until he pretty much became sick, and so I pretty much lived with him off and on for a while. And I met this guy, and I fell deep in love with him. I guess I thought I was in love, and I pretty much went to his house. I ended up leaving my grandfather's house and moving in the house with him, his mom, and his stepdad. And of course, we had such a relationship, blah blah blah. And then I don't remember what happened. Something happened, and I ended up moving in with his cousin. I think his mom got upset that me and his cousin got close. Yeah, she was that type of person. And so I ended up moving in with his cousin, and I lived there for a little while. And while I was there, I got pregnant, which at the time I didn't know I was pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant until I left her house and I went to Louisiana, and I stayed with a family friend for a while, and then she started acting kind of funny, and I ended up Jasmine Ashworth. Hey boo, I love you, I miss you. She said, no, your ass pregnant, and I was like, girl, I'm not pregnant, nuh-uh. She was like, no, I think you're pregnant. We need to go see. So I was like, okay, whatever. So Jazz ended up taking me to this, like what do you call it? Like a free clinic. It was like a free Christian clinic. Like they give you, if you find out you're pregnant, they give you options for adoptions and, things like that. So she ended up taking me to this free clinic in D. Ritter or Lake Charles. I think it was D. Ritter. We ended up going to this free clinic, and I found out I was pregnant. I found out I was 14 weeks pregnant. And I was so scared. I was like, girl, you was right. Jazz was like, well, duh, bitch, I'm pregnant myself. I know what pregnancy symptoms look like. So I found out I was pregnant. I think I called my aunt and told her I was pregnant, and she didn't believe me. And I was like, I'm for real, like, I'm pregnant. And I was not happy at all. I was not happy. I was not excited. I was very scared, very nervous, and just because I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant. I was 21. And so basically what happened was the person I was living with in Louisiana, she started acting kind of funny, and I ended up leaving. And Jasmine Ashworth, she drove me halfway between, I think it was Kenner, Louisiana, and somewhere to meet this white lady. I'm not trying to be funny. This little white lady, her name was Miss Patsy. She was very nice, very loving, and I went to stay there at a maternity home in Louisiana. And when I went to this house, it was nothing what I imagined. It was big, it was pretty, it was on so much land. She had all kinds of little cute little plants and stuff, and y'all, she had a veggie garden. So she really, wanted us to eat healthy, take care of our bodies and our babies and stuff. It was just nothing what I imagined. And everything, it was awesome. I had, for a while, I had my own little room, And I would go in my room, and I had a nice, comfortable bed. It was awesome. It was so nice. It was clean, and it was awesome. So I went there and I stayed where I met Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie was Miss Patsy's daughter-in-law, and Miss Jackie pretty much helped Miss Patsy run the maternity home, and like Miss Jackie was the one who would take us to our appointments, our week appointments. Well, we couldn't get week because they pretty much provided stuff like that for us. But she took us to our doctor's appointment. She was there. She was just like a really good support system because we didn't have family there. So I would call my aunt whenever I could and let her know that I went to a doctor's appointment and this is what happened, blah blah blah. And so I pretty much got homesick and wanted to come back to Texas. And when I came back to Texas, before I came back, Miss Patsy helped me find a maternity home in Houston that I could go and be at. And I think at the time we had called a couple different ones, and I was ready to go, but Miss Patsy was like, they didn't seem right. So finally, we found the Lighthouse of Houston, which I talked to Dean over the phone. Me and Miss Patsy talked to Dean over the phone. We kind of had like a phone interview, and he asked me a ton of questions, like have I ever been in any type of criminal trouble, if I had any drug problems or anything like that. And I think they said at the time, if you was 25, then you don't meet the criteria because you have to be younger than like 13 or 25 or something like that. Anyways, I was still in the age bracket to where I could go and be there and have my baby. So anyways, everything went well over the phone, and we arranged for me to come to Houston and move into the Lighthouse of Houston, and Miss Patsy drove me to the Lighthouse of Houston, and it was just very emotional because she kind of had been there with me through the beginning stages of my pregnancy, and man, I'm getting emotional already. And she kind of knew where I was at and how I was feeling towards the pregnancy. So when she dropped me off at the Lighthouse, she was like, y'all take care of her now. She's very stubborn, but she's a good girl. And yeah, Miss Patsy left. And after Miss Patsy left, I did keep in touch with her for a little while, but life, you kind of lose touch with people. But I've always, had her in a special place in my mind and heart because Miss Patsy kind of knew how I felt about my pregnancy and where I was at mentally about it. So, anyways, I can't believe I got emotional. So, anyways, I came to the Lighthouse of Houston, where I would spend the remainder of my pregnancy and some of my postpartum. So when I went to the Lighthouse, at first I was very like these people are trying to force me to go to church. These, it was just, when you're in a bad mental space, the last thing you want is to feel like someone is forcing you to go to church. And when I first got there, I was like, y'all can't make me go to church. So they was like, yes, we can. So they made me go to church. I would get up and go to church. At first, I would go to the church and I would just sit there. And not that I didn't have, not that I didn't know God, or not that I knew I didn't know any better. I was just not in a good space mentally, I was just angry and upset with myself and just life. So, but eventually, once I was going, I eventually liked the church, and I was more engaging as time went on. But when I got to Life House, the first person I met was Dean. Jody wasn't there, which was his wife. Oh my gosh, when I met Jody, me and Jody was like this at first, like two rocks, because Jody is an Italian, and Italians are very outspoken, and I was a young black girl with an attitude that was pregnant, that was not happy about being pregnant. So I had a major attitude. So when I first got to Lifehouse, me and Jody did not get along. We did not get along at first. But I grew to love Jody because, Jody, Jody was somebody I needed, to talk to. And even though her and Dean wasn't our, of course they wasn't our biological parents, and they had their own children, in a sense, they were like our parent figures at that time because of, where we lived. And, once Jody found out who I was as a person, and she could relate to, her mom had passed and my mom passed, and once we got past the hard part of getting to know each other, Jody was someone who I really grew to love, and someone that I could talk to. And to this day, we don't talk all the time, but I really do love Dean and Jody. Um, so once my stay in the house, at first it was difficult because I was staying there with teenagers, and I was the only adult. So, I looked at things a little different. I was like, like I'm not 16. So I definitely looked at things a little different from how they was looking, how the other girls looked at it, because the other girls were teenagers, and at the time I was the only adult in the house. I was the only one that was over 18. Everybody else was, like I said, they were still in school, teenagers. And so, when I broke it down to Jody and was like, I don't want to be here. I'm the only adult here. I'm pregnant. I'm not sure if I want to have this baby. I'm not sure if I want this baby. And, Jody explained to me that it's okay to not know right now. She was like, it's okay to have different emotions about it and not know if you want to keep the baby, if you want to, go through with it's okay. So, so the least I could say is that over time, things did get better, and I considered giving Kaden up for adoption because I felt like, well, let me go back and say, let me go back a little bit. When I found out I was pregnant, the only person I told was my auntie, right? And I told her not to say anything because I wasn't sure who the father was of my child, because I had sex with someone, and then that person he went to jail, and then I moved with his cousin, and I had sex with his cousin. Oh my goodness, that's so bad. I guess that's why I was ashamed to say at first who the father of the child was, because the two guys were cousins, and I didn't want to be judged for that. But it is what it is. I was young. The other guy had a drug problem. He ended up going off to jail, and we when he got out of jail, we kind of tried to talk, but it wasn't the same because I had already, been having a sexual relationship with his cousin, and I thought no one knew, but obviously everybody knew. And so, I was just ashamed of myself. And today, as a 32-year-old woman, I can say that, yes, I made a mistake, and I didn't say anything at first because I was ashamed and I was embarrassed and I was afraid of what people would think of me. And I felt like the only person who really understood who understood was my aunt at the time, and my support system I had at Lifehouse, which I don't know if I told them that or if I told them later. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I was ashamed of that situation, but in life you quickly learn that people are not who they claim to be. People will say they love you like family and still treat you like shit, and people will pretend to love you and care for you in your face and then say whatever they want to say behind your back or do whatever they want to do to you behind your back. And when my aunt came and got me from that house, I felt so much better. I was so ready to move and go. It was just a horrible situation. I started feeling tension, and I was feeling nauseous and sick, and I didn't know why. Come to find out, I was sick because I was pregnant. But anyways, back to the Lifehouse story. I went to Lifehouse, and like I was saying, me and Jody didn't get along at first, but, I grew to love her, and I think she grew to love me as well. When I was there, we crocheted, we did scrapbooks, we went to church, all kind of stuff. We did all kind of little stuff, and I cherished it because it was really nice to be around people that were positive and that was, genuinely ready to support you. So I stay at the Lifehouse, and I have my baby. Oh my goodness! When I had Kaden, Jody was there, my aunt was there, and my youngest sister was there. I think Jody was like up by my shoulder, holding a leg, and then my aunt was holding one leg, and then my youngest sister, she was down looking at my hoo-ha while I'm having the baby. And so yeah. So when I had Kaden and I looked at him, I just fell in love. I just knew that I did not want to give my baby up for adoption. That this is the one thing that I could possibly, be good at and succeed in doing. And y'all, it has not been easy being a single mom. I thank God that I had enough sense not to want to have any more children in the midst of while I was going through what I was going through, because I did go through a lot. I lived with a lot of different people that was say they was your friend, but really they was only letting you live with them to see what they could get out of you. I learned quickly that people are not who they say they are. And if you find somebody who tell you that you could come and stay with me until you get on your feet, baby, run, because 9 times out of 10, they want you to come stay with them so they could see what they could get from you. And that's just from my experience. Everybody who told me I could come stay with them until I could get on my feet I ended up leaving because they was trying to get stuff out of me that I just didn't have. And so I ended up leaving. And so So while I was in Lifehouse, I pretty much had therapy. I kind of worked through some things. I found out that I was an angry person. I was angry at my aunt because of all the different situations I have been going through. I found out that, you know, I found out that I'm actually quite sensitive, but at the same time, don't push my buttons. Don't push my buttons. And and when I had Caden, oh my God, nobody. When I say nobody, nobody could touch him. Nobody could hold my baby. It was about three people that could pick up my baby, and I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, okay, that's fine. It was my aunt, it was Dean, and it was Jennifer. I remember when I was at the Lifehouse, the last part of my pregnancy, when they induced me, Jennifer, sweet Jennifer, she stayed up all night with me. I was in pain, and I was bouncing on that ball. Jennifer was rubbing my back, and she was just checking on me all through the night. Are you okay, Evelyn? I'll never forget her little voice. Are you okay, Evelyn? She was just so sweet because I started off in another room, and then towards the end of my pregnancy, I moved in her room because that's where the baby bassinet and stuff was at, and so I would need to go into that room so I could be able to use so I could be able to use all the baby stuff. And that last night when I was pregnant, Jennifer just, she just rubs on my back and, do you need water? She was just very loving to me towards the end of the pregnancy. And I remember, I don't think I really liked Jennifer either at the beginning. I was just pregnant and mean I was just pregnant and mean and miserable. But yeah, so I had Caden. I came back to Lifehouse. I was there for, was it 90 days postpartum? 60 days postpartum. I was there for like a little while during postpartum, and then I moved to Austin. And Dean and Jody drove me to Austin. That was love. Dean and Jody, they were the sweetest people I had ever met in my life. I was so sad that I had to leave Lifehouse because Lifehouse had became a security blanket for me. Like, I knew I didn't have nothing to worry about. I knew I had a clean bathroom to use. I had a bed to sleep in, a nice little comfy bed. I had access to all kind of delicious food, and I was just so sad to leave the Lifehouse. It was like when I left, I'm not going to lie, y'all, when I left Lifehouse and went to Austin, I was shell-shocked because can you imagine spending your whole pregnancy in a house with people? Everybody is sharing the chores. Everybody is sharing the cooking. You have someone driving you to your appointment. You don't have to catch the bus. So when I left Lifehouse and went to Austin, and I had to catch the bus to doctor's appointments with my baby on the bus, I was like, oh my God. It was like, I didn't know how to handle it. But, I was just like, Lifehouse spoiled me tremendously, honestly. But yeah, so that's my story of how I became a mom and how I didn't tell y'all a lot of I left out a lot of stuff in between, but this video was just basically to share my story of being at Lifehouse and becoming a mom, and about how I was so unsure of if I even wanted to keep my baby. So, you know, adoption is not a bad thing. I learned at Lifehouse that adoption is not a bad thing, and they have all kinds of different levels of adoption. There's closed adoption. There was one girl at the Lifehouse where she put her daughter up for adoption, but like every 3 months she received letters and pictures and visitations. And I believe even to this day, that family still has her daughter, but she still is able to talk and communicate with her and, probably let her know her story and what happened to her. And, adoption is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. And when I got to the Lifehouse and I learned about adoption, it was something I seriously considered for myself because I just felt like, honestly, I felt like I won't be able to raise a child. Especially, I won't be able to raise a child without a father. But God saw fit, but God saw fit for my life in a different way. Once I had my baby and that nurse laid my baby on my chest, and I wanted to breastfeed him, so when I put my breast and he latched on perfect, the nurse said, "Wow, he latched so perfect." I knew that, this was the right decision that I made for me and my son to be together. And, I've never regretted not doing adoption. I love my baby so much. He just turned 9 years old in November. And I could really say that my son is my light. My son is my light. He can tell when I'm having a bad day. He can see when I'm not feeling well. My baby would just come and put his arms around me and just give me a hug and love on me. And so to everybody who may see this video, I just want to advise you that adoption is not bad. There's different levels of adoption. Don't let people poison your mind and say you want to do adoption because you don't want your baby. Whatever they may say about adoption, don't listen to it. You have to do what's best for yourself and do what's best for that child that's growing inside of you. Adoption is not bad, and I will continue to say that. You just have to make sure you have the right people and the right advocacy that will help you to do your research, find a good legal adoption agency, and just do your research. Adoption is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, and it helps people's lives. And I actually considered adoption for myself, but like I said, God said different for me. So it just depends on, and adoption is something you have to pray on as well. I did do a lot of praying at Lifehouse. I read my Bible a lot, and I asked God to show me a lot of different things on what I should do concerning my pregnancy. Because when I first got pregnant in Louisiana and I went to the Lighthouse Ministries, I was dead set on adoption. I did not want a baby. I did not want to be a mother. I didn't want no open adoption. I was like, y'all can take this baby and go on about your business, honestly. But when I came to Houston, it was just a different, it was just, Jody and Dean, they didn't push adoption on me. So it was an option, and, they mentioned it, and that was it. Everything else was my own decision. I'm not saying that at the Lighthouse they pushed it on me, but because of my situation, they did recommend it. And so I kind of wanted to go with that because they did recommend it. But once I got to Lighthouse and Dean and Jody talked to me, they had an adoption agency. A lady from the agency came and talked with us and talked to us about the different levels of adoption. And once Dean and Jody let me know that it wasn't a decision I had to make now, that I could take my time and make my decision, I'm glad that I did take my time and make my decision, because my son has been the miracle in my life. Even though there has been times where, we have been homeless, we have had hard times, and my son was right by my side. I didn't have anyone to take my son to for a month while I get myself together. No, I had to get myself together with my son on my hip. And I just thank God. I just really have to thank God that He gave me the courage to keep trying. You fall down, you just got to keep trying. No matter who says what, you just got to keep trying. And just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and just know that you're not the only one who is or have been going through a situation where I went through. So I hope this recorded. I hope that y'all can hear me. I hope that this video reaches someone, and I do hope that I could be an inspiration for someone else to tell their story. Peace, y'all. Be good.